people are always like amazed by it. So that's kind of neat because people just always want to know more about it. And like, it's kind of cool that you get to be a part of that to show other people. And people just will always ask questions and they think it's like pretty cool and pretty fascinating is the term that I get all the time.
So Renae had a growth arrest at the front of her leg. When she was younger, she had a bone cyst at the top of her leg bone, and part of her treatment of that cyst caused the growth plate at the front of her leg to stop growing. And when that stopped growing, but the rest of the leg continued to grow, it created a deformity in her leg. So as part of her initial treatment, she had bone cement placed into the cyst. So we first had to get that out of her leg and get normal bone to grow and fill in that area where the bone cement was.
The first surgery was actually a year ago, and it was to get the cement out and put actual bone from my hip in there so that they would have bone to work with. And then 5 months ago today, actually, I got this frame on, and like they were able to move my bones into the right spot. And so, yeah, that's the whole journey. Basically, you have these like knobs all across the frame, and you turn them at like a certain amount of times each day, and that's like your prescription, and it's about like a month or a month and a half depending on how much you need to move, and that'll either like lengthen the bone, like pull them apart, or like for me it also moved the top bone part up, and then once I was done turning, it just holds it all together and then waits for it to start connecting again, for the bones to start growing back together. So that's what I've been doing for the past like 3 months, because the first like month and a half was the turning, but now it's just been healing.
It's hugely important to keep an upbeat attitude with them on a weekly basis, because it gets to be tiring, and they may go through a period of several weeks where you're either lengthening the leg or you're correcting the deformity, and then once it's all corrected, it can be 3 to 6 months before the bone is healed enough that they can either take the external fixator off or begin to walk and get back to normal activities. So it's important to keep them engaged and keep them upbeat about this.
My team of doctors were so supportive, and like they always hyped me up and like made me excited for the next week. Like, they're just the best. They're so fun. At the beginning, you come like every week for an appointment, and I don't know, I looked forward to those appointments, and they were always so fun for me, which like you can't say that about many hospitals, but like they made each appointment fun, and so that was really important to me. For me, like the first 2 months are really hard, like really hard, and you kind of want to give up sometimes, and you're just like, it's not worth it and it's not gonna get better. But I think it's just to like realize that it's temporary, and like I'll be able to still go to college next year, and I'll still be able to do all these other things. This is just a short time of my life. And then also just always like push yourself to get to the next step. Like for me, I always wanted to make sure that my recovery was as quick as possible, and like that I was making the like best steps forward to getting there. Don't let it hold you back from things. So like, I don't know, I was still able to participate in our big choir show at the end of the year, and I was still able to graduate from high school and walk across the stage. Like, I was still able to go to like my high school prom. Just don't let it hold you back from things, and like always work to getting better.
You have not let this define what you do, and that's the most, you know, we talked about this before, right? That's the most important thing, is that you, yes, it just becomes part of your day and daily routine, and clearly you
I'm still in all the dance numbers in the show, so.
Awesome. Are you?
Yeah.
The patient is by far and away the most important part of this whole process, because we may only be spending 2 or 3 hours in the operating room, but for 6 to 9 months after surgery, patients need to be working on therapy every day and working on range of motion and strengthening, or they may have to care for their external fixator if they have one. So all of these things are really important, that they understand what they're getting themselves into, and that we're all on the same page when we get started. Her ability to walk and dance and participate in normal activities contributes a lot to her healing process, both from a psychological, emotional, and a physiologic standpoint.
People will always stare, and people will always like notice it. Like, it's pretty obvious and it's pretty big. So like, just don't be afraid to like go out in public with it, and like just rock it, make fun of it. Sometimes that's what I do, but just like rock it with confidence, and like it's not who you are, but it is a part of what you are gonna become, I guess. So like, just rock it. Bye.